Beware an old man in a profession where men usually die young. What ho chaps, I'm MagicalMike and this is the Warchief, an Orcish dual-axe wielding warrior build using the Ordinator perk overhaul. This character relies on pure, heavy plate armour to put between him and his enemies, keeping him not only alive for longer, but also looking menacing and rather stylish too. That feeling of a thick sheet of orc-forged metal will carry your confidence and see you through any tough situation, and it'll need to as you get right into the thick of combat and see the fear in your enemy's eyes while ripping them to shreds with both of your axes. You won't be alone in your battles though. The Warchief is a natural leader, leading by example and charging in first with his loyal companions in tow right behind him, inspired by his valour and indomitable courage. It's just not right for an orc chieftain to be sitting around and doing nothing, waiting for death, while he has such a tremendous power to affect the world around him for good and such a longing desire to do so. If you like the build, then hit that like button and consider subscribing. Cheers. So the trees you'll be investing your perks in are primarily one-handed for damage, heavy armour for all of your defence, and smithing, so that you can really hone your armaments into personalised pieces of perfection. As always, I'll recommend adding a few speech perks to buff your shouts, and finally if you have some leftover points, you can add them to two-handed or archery, but don't go deep on these skills, you're only using them if you have to. And really, two-handed is only there if you wish to lean in a little bit more to wielding a Volendrung more often, as a show of faith to Malakath. For stat distribution, focus almost entirely on increasing your health to begin with, and then level out your stamina to make them equal when you feel like you have a sufficient buffer. You'll be completely avoiding Magicka at all, but if you wish to use Akato's Recital to gain some levels, then go for it. You just won't ever be casting any big boy spells. The huge health pool is going to be absolutely key in your survival prospects, since you'll be charging headfirst into any and all combat situations and needing a way to not die instantly to a random frost mage. Similarly, stamina is super important too, because you'll be taking any and all opportunities to power attack everything, and needing some to sprint between enemies as well. This character plays very simply. Lead by example and hurl yourself at the enemy. The entire plan is to kill them before they kill you, which sounds not that well thought out, but with just how imposing, skilled and robust the Warchief actually is, it turns out to be surprisingly effective. You do also have a follower or two with you for support, for taking stray arrows or more for cheering you on for the most part. Your perks will allow you to bolster their effectiveness too, giving them more damage and armour for when they catch up and get into the fray, during those larger battles, for bigger bosses or for times when you're forced to pull out a bow for those pesky dragons. Into the details now, with perks I'd suggest taking to build the character. Do remember that we're using the Ordinator mod and my version might be a little bit different to yours, so adapt and improvise if you see anything different. These are pretty much just suggestions. Your primary perk tree is actually going to be heavy armour. These perks will be your main priority, since they're the only thing that will be keeping you alive, especially early on. You'll definitely want both points of mastery, but you'll probably hit the armour cap at some point. These increases are still useful for later perks though, so don't consider them wasted. It'll also help you level the skill faster. Defiance will stack your armour rating even higher in combat every time you get hit, and you will be getting hit. You're not here to block stuff, let the armour do its job. In fact, a number of perks will basically increase your survivability through massive damage reduction, whilst sometimes also increasing your own damage output, actually rewarding and incentivizing you to take hits. As you progress, you'll start to ignore stagger effects, reduce damage taken from power attacks, and at 100 heavy armour, the Face of the Mountain perk basically makes you immune to power attacks, staggering the enemy instead and possibly knocking them over too. So at that point you truly have nothing to fear from mere mortals with physical weaponry, and you'll be wanting to take as many hits as possible intentionally to stack all the damage and defensive buffs that you'll be building up. Out of the Inferno is the main reason to stack as much armour rating as possible, giving you quite a significant buff to your elemental resistances. And the Immortal perk will reduce damage you take by a staggering 75% when you're close to death, making you an ever increasingly difficult orc to kill. And the more health you have, the better this perk gets. For boosting your allies, you have Rallying Standard, which drops a banner that gives them extra armour and boosts melee damage. It also gives them the Courage effect, which is pretty fitting for a leadership role that you're playing. The Warbringer perk will place more standards wherever you draw your weapons in combat too, so you can strategically put them down in better places more often. And Lead the Tempest will boost your nearby allies' armour every time you sprint in combat. While the right side of the tree is mostly about increasing your resistances to stagger and magic, the left side of the tree is more about decreasing incoming damage by a lot. There's a lot of damage mitigating perks that can stack up over time in the heavy armour tree. I wouldn't normally talk so in depth about just one tree in these videos, but since you really only use a couple of skills to their full potential, I think it's worth going over just how incredibly defensive a fully stacked heavy armour user can be. For your method of attack, we're using one-handed and going all in on axes and dual wielding. We're maxing everything we possibly can that pertains to power attacks, axes, dual wielding and spending stamina. So that's Furious Strength to boost power attacks by the amount of stamina that you have, Overrun to give you a sprinting power attack option for more damage when engaging enemies initially, and Disciplined Fighter to reduce the stamina cost just a little bit. In the axe branch we want everything. The big perks here are Shield Biter, allowing you to punish anyone stupid enough to try blocking you, and then Wolf's Tooth and Go for the Throat work together to stack a damage buff and then spend those stacks for a huge hit. If you're using Modern Combat Overhaul, like I am here, then you'll need a patch to bypass Ordinator's directional power attacks, so you'll see that my perks are a little bit different but functionally work the same way. Remember though, the gods gave you two hands, and you'll be using both of them. Ravage and Mana War will make dual-wielding attacks significantly faster, or just do more damage, and Unleash the Beast will turn that rage into a frenzy, giving you the feeling of that orcish adrenaline in short, murderous bursts of sheer inspired butchery. Couple all of these damage buffs with the next perk tree and your axes are going to be ripping things to shreds in no time flat. Your third and final proper perk tree investment is going to be smithing. Grab Arcane Blacksmith in case you find some enchanted gear that you'd like to improve, Advanced Workshop so you can make your home base even better at doing so, Smithing specialization in heavy armor to boost your gear even more, and Iron Law in heavy armor. On the left side of the tree, just take all the necessary heavy armor perks to craft increasingly better appropriate armor and weapons. Daedric and Dragonbone are both great capstone options, so just pick your favourite. My armour of choice is the Warchief set from the Immersive Armours mod, and with enough smithing buffs, you can hit the cap with any set that you like, so just pick your favourite. Those are all the major perks, so here's a few further ideas. You could justify taking just a few basic damage perks in both archery or two-handed, demonstrating that the Warchief isn't just some mindless lunatic but a capable strategist that knows when to pull out the right tool for the job. You can't always will a dragon to land or jump up the walls of a fort to reach the guys shooting at you, but you can shoot back if you need to. Realistically, you probably won't need any perks here though, since your smithing will be able to boost your base bow damage by a lot anyway, and you're not supposed to be an archer. For me, I didn't take any perks. And finally, of course, with almost all of my builds, I'll also suggest a small investment into speech, just to be able to sell all your loot to anyone that has the septims for it, and for the shout cooldowns. Despite the seeming simplicity of the go forth and hit things style of build, there's still some more things to talk about. My standing stones are just vanilla, but you have a few good options still. The warrior is solid for levelling as well as the lover, but the lord or the lady are also solid options for boosting armour, health and stamina regen. You could also pick the Atronach if you want, since you won't be using any magic at all, and it'll give you a big boost to your resistances. For shouts, I tend to keep it quite simple on this build. Your absolute bread and butter stuff here: Whirlwind Sprint to engage things quickly, Unrelenting Force for a bit of crowd control, but more interestingly, Battle Fury for buffing your allies, and Elemental Fury with a pair of unenchanted axes and all of your stacked attack speed will absolutely make mincemeat of anything that could potentially be called a threat. If though you're like me and you're using the Modern Combat Overhaul mod, you'll want to swap the attack speed shouts out for something like Disarm or Dismay, since they just won't work. You could also then get your axes enchanted if you really wanted to. Try Absorb Stamina to keep the pressure up, Rolling Thunder from Summer Mist for shout cooldowns, or Power Surge coupled with your Orc Berserker Rage for some real fun. If you're using the Mana's Races mod, your Orcish War Stomp should be your main go-to ability for causing disruption. Enchantments here should be paid for by using the Honed Metal mod and finding a suitably good wizard. You'll be paying a ton of gold for these, but it is worth it in the end, and the Warchief doesn't know how enchanting works anyway, so you ain't gonna do it yourself. On your armour, focus on stamina and health regen. imminent victory, so you take less damage from almost dead enemies, stamina and health absorption auras, reducing the cost of power attacks, and, of course, some frost resistance. Basically anything to fuel your health, stamina, and anything to reduce overall incoming magical damage. You'll also probably want a ring enchanted with a light spell so that you can see in dark dungeons without having to give up a valuable weapon hand. Once you've got a solid base armor set, some smithed up improved items and a couple of enchantments to get you going, you'll find that this character becomes an immovable object in no time. This is why it's fun to play a melee build in Skyrim, because you just get to laugh in the face of danger and sprint directly at it. No thought, no tactics, no careful decision making, just unga bunga, hit, smash, axe to the face, who's next? And if somehow you do run out of steam or want to take it easier, you've got your allies with you too, and hey, they can even do some serious work of their own, since you're smithing their gear up, putting down war banners and boosting their stats so much. Like a true leader, but with less speeches and more skull cracking. Who needs magic anyway when you've got anger, shouting and steel? As for some suggested goals for the Warchief, there's not really much that you shouldn't take on. Any excuse to go out there and fight is a good enough one. But if you're feeling honourable perhaps, the Companions questline is a great cause to fight for. There's also the Civil War if you feel like picking a side and actually doing that questline, and either one of them makes sense for an orc living in Skyrim. You can justify either. The Ancient Knowledge quest from Riften is a perfect early one to do too, getting a big smithing bonus perk from finishing that up. You could also go vampire hunting with the Dawnguard, and naturally, you'll want to do Malakath's quest and get hold of the Volendrung hammer, right? Becoming a Thane is a safe bet, and hey, if you want to stay local, try doing some Radiant quests around the holds or installing a mod like Headhunter or Missives for some more variety. You could also make it your mission to go and visit all of the orc strongholds throughout the province too. Definitely worth doing for a source of ebony ore at some point. Like with many builds, you'll be quite weak early on and may even have to rely on your allies more than you'd like, or perhaps even employ a shield. You could as well just take up a smithing job until you build up enough gold for a solid set of gear. But once that heavy armor skill gets built up and you get a solid set of gear, you'll be breezing through anything the Home of the Nords tries to throw at you. And so that is the Warchief. An absolute menace in melee combat, a surprisingly speedy lump of unstoppable steel, hurtling around the battlefield in a furious, yet controlled frenzy, able to inspire and motivate his fellow companions to feats of sheer heroics, leading by example and doing what's not only necessary, but also just plain fun. It's what he's made for, not sitting around in some orc stronghold waiting for something interesting to happen. This build was actually the second build I made for Special Edition way back when, and a bit of a throwback to my very first Skyrim character ever. I always used to gravitate to the warrior archetypes. It's a very easy build to play, quick to set up, not super reliant on specific gear, and even gives you an excuse to explore some of the lesser known followers too. Orcs are just cool, man. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.